Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and the topic of the next event, preliminary results of 3 years investigation of violent crackdown on November 30, 2013. Our guests are those who suffered of this accident: Sergei Putin, Vitaliy Kuzmenko, Kransyanchyk, Liubomyr Kepler, Liubomyr Kepler, Yaroslav Radon, and also Maselko, Public Integrity Council Representative Yasanovsky, and Najovnik, lawyers.
Всім доброго дня.
Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you at our briefing. So we were the victims on the November 30th, 2013, during the event of the Revolution of Dignity. As of today, we created the Coordination Center of Victims. Our action started in court on the 30th of November when Judge Ms. Melishak, she just left and didn't even provide information about next hearing. And we were in the hall of Shevchenkivsky court during 25 days. We lived there. And now we want to speed up the investigation of the case, because when we were in the courtroom, it happened so that everyone understood simultaneously that we cannot continue like this. And now we have the aim to punish all those who are guilty in the crimes in Maidan. First, this is beatings on the 30th of November, beatings of students, as they call it, and also all those crimes against Maidan participants. On the night of 30th of November, massive crime was made. This was a terror attack, we may say, on people of Ukraine, and they tried to do everything to stop protests. They did everything that people just didn't want to protest, but people really did this, and the revolution happened. And we were the first victims of this, and we suffered heavily of this. Before this, there were some riots, but it wasn't so heavy. And this bloody crackdown was the first heavy crime in these events, and we should bring all those guilty to responsibility, those who committed crimes against Maidan. Our aim is to our aim is fair verdict of courts, the verdict on all those cases, and to reveal all those who were people who were perpetrators, to find them and punish them. We cooperate with the General Prosecutor's Office and with the Dobrochesность Council, and now my colleague is going to tell you more about it. It was Kransyanchyk. Now Sergei Pitik is given the floor. Sergei Pitik, activist of Maidan, who suffered on the 30th of November, and I'm volunteer. And everyone waits for the results, and everyone asks who is to blame. It is easy to search for those who are guilty, but the question to ourselves, why didn't we bring this case to the verdict? We just state the fact. Until May 2014, I attended hot hearings. Then in May, we understand that the war broke up and our volunteers went to war and all other events were in the shadow. And I can speak for myself because I understood that people are dying in war, and my injuries were minor. But in order that our society develop, all the crimes should be punished. Of course, there is a judge in heavens, but also here on earth, we should punish those who are guilty. In 3 years, we found out that the case stays where it was at the start. First, we became active when during court hearing our guys stayed in the courtroom and started to live there, and now we cooperate, and we hope that we will have this cooperation with General Prosecutor's Office, with investigation bodies. We want that in the result this case was brought to verdict and all the victims should have moral satisfaction to see that those perpetrators are punished. And society should support these actions. Vitaliy Kuzmenko is given the floor. I'm Vitaliy Kuzmenko. I was the victim on the 30th of November. Now, as the representative of our union, I would like to say what we had in 3 years after the crime and why we had to stay in the courtroom in order to attract attention of the public to this crime. And in this time, we created a union. On the third year, we had so there was no court decision. Even they didn't identify those members of Berkut law enforcement unit who were guilty. And only one investigator of General Prosecutor's Office continued to investigate. So this is the freezing of cases. And in this case, officially, according to investigation information, we established 150 people who suffered that night. There were 16 suspicions, and only 5 cases are brought to court. And in the court, arithmetically, we can say that minimum the hearings will be for 2 more years, and this is absurd. And only 1 case will be brought to court soon. The full scheme of this crime is not established. Those who organized and ordered and perpetrated, all those people, they are not properly, their identity is not established even now. And we have principal position, and also we were able to change the situation in this issue, because first we raised the issue about one person whose name is the Duke, and he was deputy head of Kiev's Berkut, and until recently he was the commander of the unit of law enforcers in Kiev. And due to the fact that this information was made public, he was fired, and we know that he was promoted. He got new ranks and state awards, and only due to the fact that this issue was raised and with the support of public and journalists, they fired him. And also Judge Milishakin, she first prosecuted Maidan participants, and now she is the judge in the cases of Berkut law enforcement officers. So we want to speed up investigation. We cooperate at all levels with General Prosecutor's Office, investigation, Special Investigation Department, and also we addressed the General Prosecutor with our proposals. We provided the mechanisms how to achieve results in the cases, and till in recent days, in the nearest future, we hope for results in these cases, and we will have the meeting with Prosecutor General, and we hope that we will have results in these cases. And according to the information we have, there will be more investigation, more active work investigation of this case. And in this time, we created an active union of victims, and we cooperate in the process of investigation and court hearings. Concerning this case of 30th of November, we have the database about victims. We established contacts with these victims, and we also ready to provide participation of victims on this case and in investigation, in court hearings. And we have we want to reveal everyone who is involved in this crime. And we have a number of problems connected with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, because some of the perpetrators are still working at the ministry, about half of them. So we demand that those people were fired from police because they do not have the right to stay in this body. And now we also apply to the Minister of Internal Affairs with the request to carry out internal investigation and to bring people to responsibility and fire those who were guilty. And also procedural actions in the court will be, this information will be presented by Artem Yasinovsky.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming here. I'm a lawyer who represent the victims from the first minutes of the crackdown on Maidan, and indeed this case moves very slowly and very hard, and this was easy to forecast, and we want you, mass media persons, to focus attention on these facts. Some people are afraid, some people do not know how, some one just got tired and is engaged in volunteering or warfare, but we would like to demonstrate that we should struggle and that there are reasons to struggle. Our association appeared because of the procrastination of all the court proceedings. Both the lawyers, the judges, the prosecutors, all parties got tired, and if all cases are joined, and we already initiated the joining of all the cases, and part of judges supported this joining of the cases, but the chairman didn't support. This is the right of the court, but not the liability. The cases are resonant and politicized, and this complicates the proceedings, and we should always declare that we are non-partisan, and our association has the only goal to punish the guilty. My colleague Olena Nozhovnik will tell more about specific cases. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here. Several words I would like to add. Yes, we should pay attention to these cases, and their resonant, and the volunteer Pitik said that starting with this crackdown, the war after Euromaidan, the war started, and that is why this case it was lost among other events. The law enforcement bodies who committed this crackdown, they made this demonstrative. They demonstrated very hostile violence, and the managers, the leaders of those law enforcement bodies, they feel impunity today, and they were saying that this impunity gives a reason to other persons in power to behave the same way. The law enforcement officers and the courts demonstrate their loyalty to the accused persons, and our society understand that this case either will undergo very long trial, or it would not be investigated, or these persons would not be issued the guilty verdicts, so they will remain not punished. This high loyalty, for example, against the head of Ukrainian of Kiev city's administration, Mr. Popov, and the second is versus another high top official, and there are no accusations, there are no charges against these persons, and there are many cases about volunteers where the courts issued the guilty verdicts against volunteers who are now in jailed or under other or under arrest. So the persons who demonstrated violence against protesters, they are not punished, and the volunteers, they have been punished. And this is demonstrated to our society. That is why we appeal to society. for a long time, these cases were not in focus of public attention, but the fact that 3 years have passed and there is no verdicts against the perpetrators, we want those persons who are not victims, we call on them not to be afraid to come to the court sittings. We as lawyers are going to provide support to them so that our society feels that any unlawful actions on the part of law enforcement officers are punishable. They should be punished. Good afternoon, Maselko Roman. I'm a lawyer in cases of Maidan and bring into liability of the judges who demonstrated the voluntary decisions and who punished Maidan members for faulty pretexts, for falsified pretexts. So the punishments, the punishment should be irrevocable. What we have with verdicts, the investigation in many cases have ended. More than 170 cases are pending in courts, but we have less than 10 verdicts and no punishments were issued. That is why this principle of punishment, this is not the problem of victims, this is their responsibility, and to bring the cases to verdicts, and our society, all of us are also responsible for bringing these cases to verdicts, not because of revenge, but because of unavoidability of punishment. This principle, we should establish it in Ukraine as of the revolution of dignity. The judge Sakshi was engaged, as well as other judges, in issuing unlawful verdicts such as arrest and seizure of driver's licenses. Those judges, they broke the oath. Miss Milishak, she not only issued the false judgments, unlawful judgments, but she also pressed on other judges to issue the same unlawful judgments. 3 years have passed, and the judge Milishak, she is not in jail in her case. She remains in her office, and she judges the persons who started the actions. The Berkut law enforcement officers, they attacked and beat protesters, and then the judges brought unguilty verdicts against them. And now she judges the Berkut law enforcement officers. I would like to thank the initiative group for raising this issue. What should we do? We should demand from the General Prosecutor's Office very specific things. For Ms. Milishak, we filed a claim on unlawful actions of this person, but for a year we have not received any response from the General Prosecutor's Office, and we also call on Prosecutor's Office to issue cases, to start cases against other 330 judges involved in issuing unlawful verdicts during Euromaidan revolution. Our president we also appealed to him against Ms. Milishak. The disciplinary case was started. The law should be signed by the president. This law will allow us to have these cases considered in courts, because after 2 months it would not be possible, because the deadline would expire on these cases. For us, we took a decision. The judges which are now are now working over these cases, and who issued dishonest decisions. We should take every effort to clean up the judicial corpse from these judges, unfair judges.
Yeah.
Dear friends, I came here to thank all of us, journalists, to thank those people who support us, with whom we were in 25 days, and to thank people in other towns. In Lviv, we have a union like this in other towns. From Mariupol, they came here, and Frankivsk also. So many of us are active, but without publicity, without journalists, it would be really difficult for us. So every word in our support, every argument, we're glad to see you here. So people from Lviv came here, and I hope that we will cooperate further, because we have a lot of work to do. Unfortunately, we didn't do anything in these 3 years. For first several months we attended, then there was volunteering, some of us came to war, and other people dealt with other issues. Why I joined this action? Because we were in the meeting, and I came up to people in Maidan, and they said that they also were the victims. They said they didn't want to come to us because they are afraid. So in 3 years, people got this, they lost their hope, and they have fear, and it's difficult to live with fear. And we want to show that we should stop live in fear. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your attention, and we hope for your further support. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. When I was in the ambulance, I saw that there was crackdown on Maidan, and I thought that it was the end. But then I heard that in Mikhailivsky square there is a lot of people who support us. I understood that it was all worth it to express our position. And I thank, with all my heart, I thank all the people, all those journalists, especially journalists. I'm really grateful to them that you supported us, and we communicated a lot with journalists. Thank you very much. Glory to Ukraine. And we will continue our struggle no matter what. No matter what, all those who are guilty should be punished. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Unfortunately, we have to end our press briefing. The next event in 1 minute. Can you name the names? Be brief.
Починаючи від конкретно колишнього
So those who committed crimes was the initiator of these crimes, Yanukovych and his close allies, and the organizers, the Kiev city administration had Popov, law enforcers of Kiev, Sivkovich, representatives who organized these crimes and who gave orders to carry out this crackdown and not just disperse the crowd. So thank you very much, dear colleagues.